There are artists who change the game, and then there are artists who never belonged to the game in the first place. Miguel Pimentel is the latter. For years, he stood at the intersection of everything the music industry didn't understand. Too R&B for the rock world, too rock for the R&B purists, too experimental for radio, too authentic for the labels. He was told over and over again that he was too much, too different, too bold, too unwilling to fit into the neat little boxes that make executives comfortable and playlists predictable. The industry didn't just misunderstand Miguel, it feared him. Because artists like him don't follow trends, they create them. And when you can't be controlled, you become a problem. But Miguel, he refused to dim his light. He refused to conform. And despite the rejection, despite the years of being pushed to the margins, he had something they couldn't ignore: undeniable, unstoppable talent. And then, one song changed everything.
This album is like I had a different destination in mind, or I wanted to reach a different, it's like my very first album, I was wanting to reach, people who were looking for good songwriting and creative songwriting in the ethos. At the time, R&B was kind of a caricature of music. It was like, oh.
In 2012, Miguel released Adorn, and it wasn't just a hit, it was a reckoning. Suddenly, the same people who told him he was too different couldn't get enough. Radio stations that wouldn't touch his music before, now spinning it on repeat. Critics who dismissed him, calling him a genius. Adorn became a cultural moment, a slow-burning, sensual masterpiece that proved what Miguel always knew. Authenticity doesn't just win, it dominates. But to understand that triumph, you have to understand the years of struggle that came before it.
All of the things that people said couldn't be, but we knew was there. It was all of your personalities, musicality, instinct, unique to you.
Miguel's journey to that moment was paved with rejection, with closed doors, with labels that didn't know what to do with him, and executives who saw his uniqueness as a liability, not an asset. Born October 23, 1985, in San Pedro, California, Miguel Pimentel didn't grow up dreaming of being different. He just was, and that difference, it would become both his greatest gift and his heaviest burden.
I'm born and raised here in Los Angeles, I grew up in San Pedro at Cabrillo Beach.
Miguel's father was Mexican-American, his mother African-American, and growing up biracial in Los Angeles meant living in a constant state of in-between. Too Mexican for some, too black for others, never fitting into one box, always existing in the space between worlds. Some people spend their whole lives trying to figure out where they belong. Miguel spent his learning that he didn't have to belong, that the space between worlds could be its own kind of home. This identity struggle, this feeling of never being enough for any one community, it didn't just shape who he was, it shaped his art, his sound, his soul. At home, his father played oldies, funk, and rock.
The diversity really comes from my father. His taste in music was really broad, and he was keen on feeding me anything and everything, and he had no bias as long as it was something that, felt.
His mother filled the house with R&B and soul. Miguel absorbed it all, every genre, every emotion, every sound that refused to stay in one lane. By the time he was a teenager, Miguel wasn't just listening to music. He was living inside it. Prince, Jimi Hendrix, Babyface, Stevie Wonder, artists who defied categorization, artists who made the rules instead of following them. At 13, Miguel started writing songs. At 16, he was recording and producing. And even then, even that young, he knew something the industry would take years to understand. You can't put genius in a box. But the music industry, it loves boxes, genres, labels, categories, things it can sell with a single hashtag and a predictable sound. When Miguel signed his first record deal with Jive Records, they didn't see an artist. They saw a problem they needed to solve. They wanted a traditional R&B act, smooth, safe, marketable. What they got was Miguel, a rock star in R&B clothing, bringing leather jackets and electric guitar energy to a world that wanted ballads and slow jams. Jive Records didn't know how to market him, so they did what the industry does best when it doesn't understand something. They buried it.
Leather biker jacket. I'm so at home right now. Anytime I have a leather biker jacket, I'm super comfortable. Shades. Yeah, like 6 or 7 pairs of shades. And I feel like cool boots.
Jive shelved his music, left him in limbo, stuck in silence while the world moved on without him. But Miguel didn't break. He evolved. In 2010, he signed with RCA Records and released his debut album, All I Want Is You. It was a second chance, a do-over, a shot at finally being heard. The title track, All I Want Is You, stood out immediately. Sexy, smooth, undeniably catchy, but still different. Critics loved his originality. They called him fresh, innovative, a breath of air the genre desperately needed. But commercially, the album didn't explode. It didn't break through the way Miguel hoped. And then J. Cole called. Their collaboration, Power Trip, became a hit.
Would you believe me if I said I'm in love?
And suddenly, Miguel's name was on people's lips. His visibility skyrocketed. He was no longer just a critical darling. He was becoming a name. But even then, even with momentum building, the industry still wasn't ready to fully embrace him, because despite his undeniable talent, Miguel still didn't fit the mold. His look, too alternative for R&B. His sound, too soulful for pop. Too R&B for rock, too rock for radio. He existed in the margins, and the margins don't get primetime slots. But in 2012, everything changed. Miguel released his second album, Kaleidoscope Dream, and with it, he unleashed a song that would become his defining moment. The lead single was called Adorn, and it was so powerful, so undeniable that even the skeptics, the ones who'd been saying Miguel was too different for years, couldn't deny it anymore. Adorn was minimalist, sensual, hypnotic, a slow burn that stayed with you long after the song ended. It wasn't just a track, it was an experience. The song climbed the charts like it was inevitable. It held the #1 spot on the Billboard R&B hip-hop chart for weeks, and in 2013, it earned Miguel his first Grammy Award for Best R&B Song. Finally, the world was catching up to what Miguel had always known. He didn't need to fit in. He just needed to be himself. But even in his moment of triumph, controversy found him. During his Grammy performance with Wiz Khalifa, Miguel attempted a dramatic stage jump. It was supposed to be a moment of pure rock star energy. Instead, it went horribly wrong. He landed on a fan in the crowd. The internet did what the internet does best. It turned tragedy into a meme. The Miguel leg drop went viral. Suddenly, instead of celebrating his Grammy win, the world was talking about the accident. The moment overshadowed everything he'd worked for.
Days later, after it kind of like fizzled, and I'm looking at memes and pictures of myself, like I can't help but laugh. Like, what do? Like, you have to, I mean, it's
The fan, Kiati Shaw, sued Miguel for $250,000 in damages, and Miguel, he didn't hide. He didn't deflect. He publicly apologized with real remorse, acknowledging the harm caused.
Just the show, rush to the girl as soon as the camera pops off. Rush to the girl. Are you okay? Come on, let me take you to the infirmary. I escorted her myself. Never mind anything. No, get out of the way. Like, we need help. Blah, blah, blah. Make sure she's getting the medical attention that she deserves and she needs. After making sure she was okay, you know, the producers were asking if she'd be into doing an interview, and I'm like, she just.
The lawsuit was eventually settled privately. The controversy faded, and when the dust settled, Kaleidoscope Dream remained, not as a footnote, but as a statement. The album solidified Miguel as a powerhouse. How Many Drinks, featuring Kendrick Lamar, became another hit.
How many drinks would it take you to leave with me, baby?
His artistry was undeniable. Miguel had survived the backlash, and he'd come out stronger. Kaleidoscope Dream went platinum, and more than that, it became a blueprint. Miguel's bold style, the genre blending, the rock influence, the refusal to play it safe, inspired a new wave of R&B artists who saw that you didn't have to choose between authenticity and success. In 2015, he released Wild Heart, and with it, he took his rock fusion even further. Tracks like Coffee became instant fan favorites. Waves earned a Grammy nomination and got a remix from Travis Scott that brought Miguel into the hip-hop mainstream. He was no longer just an R&B artist. He was a cultural force. Miguel's catalog became genre-defying, untouchable, a masterclass in creative freedom. And in 2017, his personal life reached a beautiful milestone. He married Nazanin Mandi, his partner of 12 years. It felt like everything was falling into place.
Soon-to-be wife is that it always felt very natural. And we always felt like we were very connected, like from the beginning.
But after nearly 2 decades together, they separated in 2021. Their public statement was mature, respectful, graceful, but beneath those carefully chosen words, there was pain, loss, the quiet ache of a love that couldn't last forever.
So, you know, there was a lot of ups and downs for us. In fact, we even broke up in our 20s. A lot of people don't know that. We broke up for about a solid year. We both dated other people, which is so crazy to think about. You know, he had to go do his thing. I needed to try and find myself, and I didn't even know I had to try and find. It was a lot. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Miguel did what he always does when life gets heavy. He turned it into art. His post-breakup songs grew introspective, raw, vulnerable in ways his earlier work never was. And his collaboration with Travis Scott on Skywalker became a massive hit, proving once again that Miguel could create commercial success on his own terms. Because here's the thing about Miguel. He could have chased mainstream fame at any point. He could have smoothed out his edges, played the game, given the industry what it wanted, but he didn't. He chose integrity. He chose authenticity. His 2021 album, Coup de Grace, marked his last release under RCA Records. It was the end of an era.
It marks, you know, a new level of creativity in the visual that I'll be delivering you know, from now on.
When Coup de Grace finally dropped in 2024, yes, 3 years later, because Miguel doesn't rush art, it was a meditation on success, loss, and purpose. He continued creating through 2024 and into 2025, experimenting freely, unbound by label expectations.
What I've learned to embrace is that chaos or chaos is optimal conditions for growth. And it's what is required for us to refine.
Now, at 39 years old, Miguel has hinted at going fully independent, starting his own label, building something that exists outside the traditional industry machine. Because at this point in his career, it's not about fame anymore, it's about legacy.
I think is more about honoring the creativity, you know, and taking what I've learned from him and being as true to the art, respectful of the art and the creativity as I possibly can.
These days, you'll find Miguel headlining festivals, performing at intimate venues where the connection between artist and audience feels sacred. He's collaborating across genres, refusing to be boxed in, because that's who he's always been.
Sweet Hollywood sign.
His collaborations span from underground artists to mainstream icons. He's contributed to film soundtracks, built fashion partnerships, become a true style icon. With a 10 million net worth, Miguel has achieved success on his own terms, without scandals, without compromise, without selling his soul for a radio hit. He's faced racism, label resistance, industry gatekeeping, and he's turned every challenge into advocacy for inclusivity, for artists who don't fit the mold, for the ones who are told they're too different. His perfectionism and refusal to rush his art define his creative process. And his breakup with Nazanin? It inspired some of the most emotionally raw songs about loss and healing that he's ever written. So what's next for Miguel? Full artistic freedom, producing for other artists, mentoring the next generation, scoring films, creating without limits. He's now seen as an elder statesman of alt R&B, a pioneer who opened doors for everyone who came after. And his next independent project, rumored for 2025, it may be his boldest yet. Artists like The Weeknd, Frank Ocean, and H.E.R., they all followed the path Miguel carved. They exist because Miguel proved it was possible to be different and successful. Adorn remains timeless, streamed millions of times across the world, a song that will outlive trends and playlists and algorithms. But here's the beautiful tragedy of Miguel's story. Despite his brilliance, despite his influence, he never achieved mass fame. He never became a household name the way some of his peers did. And maybe that's the point. Because Miguel's career isn't about conformity. It's about integrity. It's a masterpiece built not on commercial success, but on fearless creativity.
I just want a simple thing.
Miguel spent his 20s fighting to be heard. He spent his 30s proving he was right all along. And now he creates for the pure sake of art, for the love of it, for the freedom of it. His journey proves something powerful. Being different isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And his career, it's a testament to what happens when you refuse to compromise, when you stay true to yourself, even when the world tells you you're too much. Miguel Jontel Pimentel was never meant to fit in. He was meant to stand out. And in doing so, he changed everything.